A mysterious ring of smoke, more than 100 yards in diameter, that hovered and hovered for about 15 minutes before finally fading away.
It's every stage. And Jim, when it starts off the loop with those first big bolts of lightning, right after the dark frame, that's where it starts.
Yeah, right there.
Storm surges, flash floods, and landslides remain potential threats. Maysak has weakened from a super typhoon, but still has maximum sustained winds of 160 kilometers an hour.
Goodness gracious alive.
Around 24,000 people in the Philippines have been evacuated, with Typhoon Maysak a day away from potentially striking the country's northeast coast. Storm surges, flash floods, and landslides remain potential threats. Maysak has weakened from a super typhoon, but still has maximum sustained winds of 160 kilometers an hour. It's moving towards the province of Aurora and is projected to make landfall early Sunday. In November 2013, such storm surges caused many of the fatalities when Super Typhoon Haiyan struck. More than 7,300 people were left dead or missing. Local authorities have been on high alert and transporting food to the temporary shelters where the evacuees are heading for.
Few details this morning on a mysterious light that some residents in the Southwest are saying is out of this world. I spoke with several people living off of Alder Point Street near Panama and Gosford. Recently, they've been seeing a floating blue light and do believe that it's extraterrestrial.
Oh, there it is. I was taking the recycling out to the trash can, and I was walking back, and I saw like this blue light in the sky, and I was like, that's kind of bright to be a star. I've never seen a blue star that bright.
There ain't no weather balloon. Watched it for probably about 10 minutes, just doing weird stuff, and it would turn on and off the light and it would disappear.
Neighbors living off of Alder Point say the blue light that they saw in the sky was about the size of a dime and started off just above those trees right there and then migrated northwest.
Oh, there it goes sideways.
It pretty much flew, stopped, and then started doing some upward motion and downward motion. So I never seen anything like that.
In all of your 23 years living here, have you ever seen anything?
Nothing. No, nothing. You know, we'll see the police helicopter every once in a while or an airplane go by. It's pretty common, but nothing like this.
No lightning? Did you see that?
No, really?
The neighbors I spoke with in the Southwest say they first witnessed the light back in February and again last month, and both times they saw it on the 14th. Even stranger, they caught this flash of light on video appearing just to the left of the blue light.
Last time we saw it, it had a white flash. Like it looked like lightning, but there was no clouds in the sky, and all of a sudden we just didn't see it anymore and it was gone.
I took the videos to Senior Deputy Victor Kesey with the Kern County Sheriff's Department, whose office works closely in conjunction with neighboring Meadowsfield Airport.
I'm not aware of any calls that we've received regarding any blue lights or any strange lights in that area. Very seldom, if ever, have I seen anything like that. However, you know, we are in the age of drones now. You know, obviously we have military drones, but there are civilian drones and drones for purchase, so you know that is a possibility.
It looked way too high up in the sky to be a drone.
It wasn't a regular airplane or a drone. It was much bigger than a drone would be, especially at that distance.
Around 2,000 people have been evacuated from a Palestinian refugee camp in Damascus over the weekend after the self-proclaimed Islamic State seized large parts of it. A Palestinian official says most of those evacuated from the Yarmouk camp are being hosted in government shelters. At least 25 wounded were taken to 2 hospitals in Damascus. The official says Syrian troops aided the evacuation, which came as Palestinian forces battled to hold back ISIL fighters. The British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says at least 26 people, including civilians as well as fighters from ISIL and Palestinian factions, had been killed in the camp since Wednesday. Yarmouk has been under tight siege for more than a year. It's been devastated by street fighting, air attacks and shelling. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has condemned the ISIL attack.
Our Yarmouk refugee camp in southern Damascus has been suffering from attacks. All groups, whether they're an organization or not, are fighting against each other in the camp, and we're paying the price. The Palestinian Liberation Organization in Damascus has formed a crisis cell to handle this tragedy. They're trying to work it out with the fewest losses. We're in touch with our brothers there to find a way out and protect our people from this tragedy.
There are almost as many explanations as there are people who saw it. For a strange black oval in the Kazakhstan sky, it suddenly appeared over a village just north of the capital of Astana. A mysterious ring of smoke, more than 100 yards in diameter, that hovered and hovered for about 15 minutes before finally fading away. So what exactly was it? One person is sure it was an alien spacecraft, another a thermal microburst, another called it a real-life X-file. But a local university physics professor said the giant black hoop was likely only a smoke ring from nearby factories. He said that it was so visible because there were no clouds or wind around that day. I'm Ari Sarsalari, the Weather Channel.
Holy! Goober! Scared the out of me.
Goodness gracious alive.
And a gorgeous display. Look at that. It's setting up in Darwin, Australia. That's in the Northern Territory. Jim, I know you were geeking out over this earlier, showing the thunderstorms in the development stage.
Because it's every stage. It's every stage. And Jim, when it starts off the loop with those first big bolts of lightning, right after the dark frame, right there. That's where it starts.
Yeah, right there. So think about that. You got all this this warm, moist air rising up through the freezing layer. All these ice crystals banging together. Charge is building all over the place. Then you can see the anvil spread out on the top, and then as the storm collapses, here comes the gust front, here comes the shelf cloud, and behind that will be your rain, which you can kind of see illuminated by the lightning in the back. So just an awesome, awesome display of the atmosphere in motion. That's probably what, guys, 45 minutes to an hour?
I'm not sure.
On that, you know what? I don't even know how long that time lapse was, but in general, I'd say you're probably right.
You know, and this is the rainy season for parts of Australia and Darwin. After that, they go dry, and they're actually the lightning capital of Australia, just ahead of Perth. Yeah, just ahead of Perth.
Okay.
Time now is 12:11. We're back to breaking news right now. We're following out of Chicopee. Chicopee police are investigating reports of an underground explosion in the city's Aldenville neighborhood. 22 News reporter Caitlin Gosley is live in Chicopee with the latest.
Explosion happened here in Chicopee's Aldenville neighborhood. Take a look at what's going on right there behind me. You can see where this incident happened at the intersection of Granby Road and Groton Street. Chicopee police officer Mike Wilk told 22 News there's no reports of any injuries because of this explosion that happened this morning, but that people living in this area of town may be dealing with some power outages. According to Chicopee Electric Light, that's the local power company, outages are affecting homes on Granby Road, McKinstry Avenue, and Memorial Drive. They also did just tell 22 News that they have repair work already started. We actually just saw a few of their CEL trucks arrive here just a few moments ago. And as of right now, the power outage is not affecting the traffic light. We are making calls to find out if any other areas of town are experiencing difficulties in that sense, if the traffic lights lost power because of this explosion. But again, right now, no injuries because of it, and repair work to that power outage is already happening now. We're going to stay on this and get you the latest information on when you can expect your power to be turned back on if you are affected by this, and we'll get you those updates right here on 22 News and over at our website, wwlp.com. Live in Chicopee, Caitlin Gosley, 22 News.
Power outages affecting the city major government buildings. Our chief national security correspondent Jim Sciutto is getting more information. What are you learning, Jim?
Wolf, this just in now from DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, which tells CNN, a DHS official, that the Department of Homeland Security is closely monitoring the ongoing power outage affecting parts of Washington, D.C. To be clear, that does not mean they have any indication that this is tied to terrorism at this point. But in light of how widespread the power outage is, they are keeping a very close eye on it. One, to see if it is rectified, but also two, to see if there's anything they have to look to in causes of this. But that's where they stand right now, closely monitoring the situation. And as you reported earlier, Wolf, the earliest indication coming from local Department of Homeland Security is that this was the result of an explosion at a power facility or a transformer. But the national DHS, Department of Homeland Security, also watching this closely, as they would, especially when you consider the breadth of facilities that this is affecting now, including the White House, as we see there, but State Department and other government facilities. That's what we have now.
And we have even if there were an explosion at this power facility in southern Maryland, Jim, we have no idea what caused that explosion at the power facility that could have caused this widespread power outage throughout the Washington, D.C. area.
No, we don't, Wolf. We don't know what caused it. And again, to be clear, we have no indication, and officials I've spoken to have no indication that there is a nexus, a tie to terrorism behind that or behind this power outage. But they are taking the step, and they are certainly watching this very closely in light of the breadth of this, the effect that it's having on the city, the general state of security in this city, and the fact that government buildings were affected. But that's where they stand right now.
And as far as we know, major government buildings, including the Department of State, they're still without power. They have backup resources, but major power is out, right?
That's right. In fact, there was even an announcement in the State Department telling people to be calm, even to enjoy their lunch during the power outage, which they said might take a couple of hours to rectify. But there are backup power sources at government buildings, certainly the White House, State Department, and others, and those are being used right now. It doesn't mean that you have all the power that you would have otherwise. In some of these places, emergency lighting went on for a short time. They're able to function, carry on their main functions while they try to rectify the cause of this.
Now, ABC 7 News at 6 on your side. Right now at 6, the simple cause of a massive power outage that brought parts of the nation's capital to a halt. Just after lunchtime, the lights went dark from southern Maryland all the way to the White House. Exclusive ABC 7 video shows utility company Smeco repairing the transmission conductor in Charles County that fell, knocking out power to 2 stations. That fallen conductor interrupted Pepco's power supply as well, ultimately affecting more than 28,000 customers. That includes the University of Maryland, where many people were stuck in elevators. We have team coverage of the outage tonight. Brianne Carter will join us from College Park in a moment. But first, D.C. Bureau Chief Sam Ford shows us the confusion in the nation's capital. Sam?
Maureen, some buildings were affected, other buildings were not. And here at Pepco, they're saying that this really wasn't a power outage, but rather it was the power systems in various buildings reacting to a drop in voltage. But you could have fooled a lot of people when you said that.
We were all sitting at our desks, and it just went black, like dark.
In buildings across the city, it hit between 12:40 and 1 p.m. At the Warner Theater, where Oprah was speaking for unveiling a stamp in memory of poet Maya Angelou, the lights disappeared during her address. Smithsonian museums along the mall and elsewhere went dark and were evacuated, and the power company Pepco says it was all because of an equipment failure at a substation in southern Charles County, Maryland, that caused a fire, a transmission line to fail, and a voltage drop, which in buildings in the city, power systems automatically switched to backup power and buildings went mainly dark.
And so that's why in some locations people saw what appeared to be a power outage. It was really the system switching over from the primary system over to the backup system.
At the ceremony at the Warner, also attended by First Lady Michelle Obama, nobody panicked and a lot of people thought it was part of the show.
I thought it was planned.
What if I told you that there's a power outage from here up into Maryland?
Oh wow, really? Wow.
And the Pepco spokesman said it caused a powerful ripple effect from southern Charles County as the power came here to D.C. Also, another impact here was that there was the Calvert Cliffs nuclear power plant, and the spokesman said that system reacted well as well because when this happened, the voltage dropped, it shut off the power to all the nuclear units, and they were not affected. Reporting live from Northwest Washington, Sam Ford, ABC 7 News.
Thank you, Sam. The Smithsonian was forced to evacuate several of its museums along the National Mall because of the loss of power. The museums were closed for a couple of hours. When power was restored, all museums reopened just before 3 o'clock. Metro also had problems tied to the outage. Train service never stopped, but the loss of power to elevators and escalators forced the closings of the DuPont Circle and Bethesda stations. The Bethesda station remains closed at this hour. Power has finally been restored at the University of Maryland, but for many, the outage was more than just a break from classes. Brianne Carter is there live with the problems many faced on campus. Brianne?
Well, that's right, Maureen. And at this hour, things are starting to get back to normal. Very quiet here just outside of the Student Union, but it was a much different scene in the middle of the day where people were all over the sidewalks and streets trying to figure out why in the middle of class the lights just went out. Now, a number of students telling us they were taking an exam and all of a sudden the power went out. Some pulled out their cell phones to use the back of the light from that just to try and see the paper in front of them. Meanwhile, scarier moments for some students who were inside of an elevator at the time that all of this happened. Prince George's County fire officials tell us that about 6 elevators they helped to get open to get those students back to safety. They say that everyone was okay after all of that. Now, we do know that the power is back on at this hour, but still students do not have any hot water or steam here on campus. Many say that after this day in the dark, they start to describe exactly what they saw when they came outside.
Well, the professor was giving a lecture with her PowerPoint, and then all of a sudden the lights went off, and she was walking outside talking to other professors, trying to see what was going on. And she came back in and was like, "Oh, we'll wait it out." And then after about 5 minutes, she's like, "Oh, there's no point in waiting. You guys can just go." So came outside, and everybody was outside already. So this is really taking a toll on everything I'm trying to do today.
That was a sentiment by a number of students who were concerned that tests they were taking and had prepared for perhaps to be rescheduled, but they were able to complete those. Now, classes were canceled as of 2 o'clock this afternoon, so no evening or afternoon classes here. Dining services have been limited as a result. They say they hope to get things back to normal here by later this evening. Reporting live in College Park, Breanne Carter, ABC 7 News.
7 is on your side, pushing for answers about today's power outage. We'll bring you any new information about its cause and its effects as we get it.
A fire breaking out of a nuclear submarine in a shipyard in Russia's northern province. That is according to various Russian news agencies, and both the shipyard where the submarine was believed to be under repair and the emergencies ministry have declined to comment. There has been no word of casualties, and Russian news agency Interfax cites an unnamed source as saying that there were no weapons on board of the submarine. Other Russian news agencies say that the fire started during welding, causing insulation materials to catch fire. The submarine's nuclear reactor was believed to have been shut down prior to the blaze.
Three bodies have been recovered from this particular site so far, and the teams are working on a fourth that they just pulled out of the dirt and placed inside another of these bags. The hands on this particular corpse were bound, and we did see them on some of the others. This is very difficult work for the teams, and it's also emotionally difficult as well. Earlier there was an impromptu ceremony held here to commemorate those who had been killed. Many people were in tears. Now, in this particular site, they're saying so far, and they've been working for about 4 or 5 hours now, they have found 9 bodies. This is a fairly large mound. They believe in this location they might end up finding about 20 or 30. So far, they have pinpointed 8 sites here inside the presidential compound in Tikrit, scattered throughout this sprawling area. Another 2 locations have been identified outside of the city on the way to Camp Speicher. Now, the vast majority of these casualties, and you see the corpse, the remains being carried away there, but the vast majority of these casualties, if not all of them, are believed to have been the victims of what is now known as the Camp Speicher massacre, when ISIS fighters brutally, mercilessly murdered hundreds, if not upwards of 1,500 recruits when they first took over this area back in June. The families of the dead have desperately been waiting for answers about what happened to their sons. Many of them have been pleading with the government to get this process quickly underway. But even though it has begun, it is going to take a very long time to actually exhume all of these various bodies, and then DNA testing will be underway as well. What we are hearing from one survivor we spoke to earlier and from experts on the site is that ISIS divided the men up into smaller groups and then executed them at various different locations. One survivor who was here, who we spoke to, came back because he said he wanted to look for his friends. Arwa Damon, CNN, Tikrit, Iraq.
Exterminators hard at work at a backyard in Newport Richey, Florida, after 3 people hospitalized after being stung by bees. Now, all this happened on Sunday morning. A woman saw one of her neighbors rolling around the ground, screaming for help, and covered in bees. She then dialed 911. By the time firefighters got there, there were 3 people under attack from a swarm of some 30,000 bees. Firefighters had to use a water hose to clear those bees out of the area.
It took a good 15 minutes of spraying before they can get them safely into the ambulance.
Now, 2 of the 3 people attacked had more than 50 stings. The attack apparently occurred because the man was scraping the hive looking for honey.
President Obama is asking Americans to think of climate change as a threat not just to the planet, but also to their health.
Well, today, the president visited Howard University Medical School to announce a series of initiatives aimed at reducing that threat. Kana Whitworth has the latest.
Dry faucets, deadly tornadoes, hurricanes that increase in strength every year. President Obama is saying we can no longer deny the effects of climate change, and he's calling for action. The White House releasing their plan to protect communities from what President Obama considers the impacts of climate change. The administration says damage caused by climate change isn't just dangerous to the environment, but also to Americans' personal health.
Problems go beyond the lungs. Heart disease, strokes, funny rhythms of the heart are related to changes in air quality.
The White House says the number of Americans with asthma has more than doubled in the past 30 years. Asthma sufferers, along with children, the elderly, and poor, among the most vulnerable people during wildfires, hurricanes, heat waves, and drought. Is global warming a man-made problem, and is there a government fix? Opinions differ, but some companies are taking the president's call to action seriously. Google plans to donate millions of hours of computing time to help agencies better prepare for wildfires and gas flares. And Microsoft is working on a system to detect pathogens in the environment before people start getting infected.
Even today's rain and snow here in California is just a drop in the bucket as people are coping with a 25% cut in water use. In Los Angeles, Kana Whitworth, ABC 7 News.
We've had some severe weather at points over the last couple of weeks, but we're forecasting a more significant outbreak that's going to last a couple of days, and it starts really soon. In fact, on Wednesday, already, we're starting to get into it. If you see your city in the red here, parts of the plains in the upper Midwest, you'll have a good chance at seeing storms that'll produce damaging wind and hail. The highest threat for tornadoes on Wednesday, we're talking eastern Kansas and western Missouri. So Wichita, Kansas, that's a place that's no stranger to tornadoes. You guys need to be on high alert on Wednesday. And then Thursday, the threat shifts a little bit farther toward the east, and the highest threat for tornadoes shifts toward the north. There are going to be some big cities in play here. This circled area, highest chance for tornadoes, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and Indiana.